Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm really excited because we are going to be doing a declutter video. I love watching these and I really enjoy seeing what people are keeping, what they're getting rid of. So for today, I'm going to be doing a eyeshadow palette declutter. That is probably the thing that I own the most of as far as palettes go, and I'm wanting to kind of make some more space for new items that I want to purchase or new items I am receiving, and I just want to kind of start out fresh with the palettes that I love and kind of get rid of the ones that I don't use as much. So we are going to be doing a eyeshadow palette declutter, and I'm really excited to take you guys along with me. I'm going to be doing this in my living room area just so I have more space. So I'm starting it out here so I can kind of do the intro, and then we'll move over to that space and it'll be more of a vlog style type of video. So really quickly before we do get started with the declutter, I post here on my channel on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So that is when you'll find new videos from me. So if you guys want to subscribe down below, that would be amazing. Also, we have our giveaway going on right now. There is only 10 more days, I believe, to enter. So if you guys want to enter, go ahead and check the link down below to do so. And let's get started with declutter. Okay, so basically I have all of my palettes set out here. Palettes are probably my favorite thing to buy, so I do have a large collection. So we're just gonna go ahead and put them into piles. If you hear my dog rattling around, that's because he's attacking my cat. But we're gonna put them into different piles, so I'm just gonna do a keep pile, I'm gonna do a sell pile. I do have a POSHMARK account, so items that I can sell. Anything that I was gifted in PR or anything like that, I'm gonna go ahead and put in a giveaway pile. And a trash pile probably, because some of these palettes probably are gonna be pretty old. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first palette that I have here is the MAC and Patrick Star Goal Getter palette. This is fairly new to me, so I'm definitely gonna wanna keep this one and continue to play with it. Palette here is the Tartelette Toasted palette. I have had a really good time playing with this palette. I'm still kind of figuring out looks to do with it, and I haven't had enough time to kind of play with it fully, so I'm gonna go ahead and hold on to this one. I love the Tartelette in Bloom palette, and I just wanna love this one as much as that one, and I haven't yet, so I'm gonna continue to use this one so I can fall in love even more. I have two different palettes here from Pure. So I have the Dream Chaser palette, and then I also have the Gold Digger palette. Now I really like the Gold Digger one. I feel like it's really, really pretty. You have some fun little eyeshadow colors in here, as well as some face products. I really like the highlight. So I'm definitely gonna be keeping this one. Now this one here, the Dreamcatcher, I'm not as in love with this one as the other one. I do think the colors in it are pretty, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my giveaway because I just don't feel like I use this one very often. For our next palette, this is the Semi-Sweet x9. This is just a small eyeshadow palette from MAC. So we just have some different colors in here, and I do like this because I love MAC's shadow, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one. As I mentioned, this is one of my favorite palettes. This is the In Bloom Tartelette palette from Tarte. I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one because I love this palette. Our next palette here is the Subculture palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I think you guys know the way I feel about this palette. I just find it very hard to use, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this one in the cell, and maybe somebody else can get better use out of it. This next palette is from Wet n Wild, and this is their Poster Child palette. I do actually really like this palette. I think that the colors in it are really fun, and they're actually really pigmented, so I'm gonna go ahead and hold on to this one because I do like having different drugstore palettes for drugstore tutorials. The next one we have here is the Graveyard Girl and Swamp Queen palette from Tarte. I love this palette. It's such a good palette. I love this shade right here, especially. It's my favorite. This is a really, really good palette. I love Tarte's eyeshadow, so I'm gonna go ahead and save this one. This next palette here, this is from a brand called Stellar. I really like Stellar's products. Their Limitless Foundation is one of my favorites, and I really haven't had a chance to play with this too much, so I do wanna continue to use it. This shade right here is so pretty in the palette, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one. This palette that I have here is the Lorac Pro 2 palette. I don't know. So I like this palette. I just feel like I don't use it too much, and I just feel like I want to make room for other palettes in my collection. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my sell pile just because I feel like I don't use it as much as I should. The next palette is the Lorac Pro 3, so I haven't got to use this one too much, and I do want to continue to use it because I really love all the colors in it, and I just feel like these are definitely my tones when I like a palette. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep this one. So the next little palette I have here is from Essence, and this is the All About the Chocolates little eyeshadow palette. I don't believe I've ever even used this one. I just don't feel like it's necessary in my collection. It is a pretty little palette, so I think I'm gonna put this in a future giveaway for you guys, so I'm gonna go put that in a separate pile as well. The next palette is from Tarte. This is the Styled by Harouche palette. I do really like this one. I love the blush in here, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna keep this one just because I love that royal shade and I'm obsessed with this little palette. The next one that I have here is from Physicians Formula. This is their little smoky palette. I don't know if they even make these anymore, but I used to be obsessed with these tiny little palettes. I've used the crap out of this one a long time ago, but I haven't used it in so long. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my gift pile. So this next palette is from Pixi, and this is in collaboration with It's Judy Time, and I think this is called Get the Look. Eyes Time. So this is a pretty palette. I haven't used it a bunch, so I do definitely want to play with it more. I feel like it has some really great transition shades, and I really like this shimmer shade right here. Little palette is another one of those little Physicians Formula palettes. Like I said, I haven't used this in so long, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my gifting pile. The next palette is the Master with Mario palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. Of course, I'm keeping this one. It's such a good palette, and I love the formula of their eyeshadows. This next palette is from Lottie London, and isn't it cute? I love the packaging of this, so pretty. And the shadows in here are actually really nice. So I wanna go ahead and keep this one just because I haven't used it a ton, but it is a really great, affordable palette. Next one that I have here is the Urban Decay Electric palette. I love this palette. I've used it so much for just fun looks and Halloween. So I'm gonna go ahead and hold on to this one. So this next little palette is from Lime Crime, and this is the Bubblegum palette. So here's what it looks like. I do wanna keep this one. I haven't used it too much. I wasn't super impressed with it when I did use it, but I do wanna give it another chance. So I'm gonna go ahead and hold on to this one. For my next palette here, I'm not really sure who this is even from. It's just like a little palette that has some different shades in it. It looks like I did use that green shade, but I'm not sure. I think this is really old, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the trash pile. Same thing with this palette. It looks like I loved it once upon a time, but I haven't touched this in years, and it probably needs to get thrown away. This next palette I have here is from Dose of Colors, and this is the Girls palette, the collaboration with Desi and Katie. I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one. I really do love the shades in here. I think they are so fun and different. The next palette I have here is from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is the Self-Made palette. I love this palette as well. I really love that pink champagne color, such a pretty color. And I just really like the tones in here. I love this palette, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep it. Next palette is from Tarte. This is the Sex Kitten palette. This is such a good little palette with some really good mattes in here. I really enjoy using this, and it's the perfect size for travel. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one. So we have this little palette from Maybelline. This is the City Mini palette, and I wasn't super impressed with the formula of this. I thought they were a nice palette, but I just have some more that I like better. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my gift pile. Next palette is from Maybelline as well, and this is the Total Temptation palette. And I don't know, I wasn't super impressed with this palette. I don't know, it wasn't my favorite. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the gift pile as well. I was sent this from Maybelline, but I don't know, I just have other palettes that I like more than this one. The next palette that I have here is from Becca, and this is the Eye Lights palette. I really enjoy this palette. I've seen a lot of people say that they didn't like this, but I actually really like it, so I'm gonna go ahead and hold on to this one. This next palette that we have here is the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. I do really like this palette. I like all of the warm shades in it, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one. This next palette is from Brandy Vici. I adore this palette. I really like it. I think the shades in it are so fun and different, and this gold shade right here is so pretty. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my keep pile. I have here the other one from MAC and Patrick Star. This is the Glam AF palette. I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one as well. The next palette I have here is from BH Cosmetics, and this is the Carly Bible palette. I do think this palette is super pretty. I just don't really reach for it at all. And although I do think it is a really good palette, I think I'm gonna put this in my Cell palette because I did purchase this one myself. This next palette we have right here, this is the Major Metallics palette from Flirt Cosmetics. It is such a pretty palette. The colors in here are so pigmented. I'm gonna go ahead and hold on to this one. Right here I have a couple of the ColourPop I Love Sarah E collaboration palettes. So we have two different ones, and I really like both of these. I think that ColourPop's single shadows are so good. So I'm gonna hold on to both of these, and I need to use these more often because the colors in here are so pretty. The next palette is the Take Me On Vacation palette from Kylie Cosmetics. I do think this is a really pretty palette, but I hardly ever reach for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my sell pile. Next palette that I have here is from Thrive Cosmetics. I really do think this is a gorgeous palette, and I do really like it. I just don't feel like I reach for it very much just because they have very similar colors. So I think I'm gonna put this in my gift pile. Next palette I have here is the Morphe Kathleen Lights palette. I think that this palette is so fun. I love this green shade in here, and I think that the colors she chose are really great. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one. This next palette is from Deck of Scarlet, and this is the number 4 edition. I do think that this palette is really great, and it has some incredible formulas to it, but these aren't just really not colors that I'm reaching for a ton lately, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my gift pile. Next one here is this Smoky palette from Profusion. I haven't actually gotten to play with this one yet, but it is really pretty, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one so I can give it a fair shot. It's from Tarte. This is one of my absolute favorite palettes. This is the Make Believe in Yourself palette. I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one because I think it's so pretty. Next we have a palette from Gorgeous Cosmetics. I actually haven't got to use this yet. This is such a fun palette. I wanna keep this one because I haven't got to use it. This is the Neon Shades palette. Another palette here from Deck of Scarlet, and this one is new as well. These are their new foiled eyeshadows, and I actually haven't got to play with these yet either, so I'm gonna go ahead and hold on to this one. Alright, it's kind of starting to get a little bit sunny here, but next we have the Desert Dust palette from Huda Beauty. I love this palette. I think it is such a good palette, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one. The next palette I have here is from BH Cosmetics, and this is the Galaxy Chick palette. I do think that this palette is really fun, and the colors in it are really cool and unique. I just don't feel like I use it a bunch, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my gift pile. The next palette that I have here is also from BH Cosmetics. This is the Illuminate palette from Ashley Tisdale, and I think this is a really pretty palette. I love the way that it's laid out, and I do want to play with this one more. This one is from Mellow Cosmetics, and this is their Treasure Chest palette. Really gorgeous. This one reminds me a lot of this one from Lorac that I actually kept, which is this one here. So I think what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my sell pile, and I'm gonna keep this one. This next one here has some of my MAC shadows as well as my Ofra individual eyeshadows, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one. This next one here is the Deck of Scarlet. This is the number 6 edition, and this is what it looks like here on the inside. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna gift this one to my friend because I know that she would really like the colors in here. Next one is from Tarte, and this is the Tarteist Pro. This is another really good palette from Tarte. I'm gonna go ahead and hold on to this one. Next palette here, this is the Sultry palette from Profusion. I think that this palette is super gorgeous. I really like the colors that are in it. Just for me, I think, I don't know. I just feel like it's such a large palette, so it's kind of hard to store. And I feel like I do have colors that are very similar to this one. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my gift pile, although I really love this palette. Next palette here is my Violet Voss Laura Lee palette, and I enjoy this palette. I love this palette. I love the formula of Violet Voss's shadows, so I'm gonna go ahead and hold on to this one. The next palette that I have here is from Morphe, and this is the 35E eyeshadow palette. So, I feel like I do really like this palette, but I also never really reached for it. It is a all shimmer palette. I don't know. I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this one for sale just because I don't use it a ton. This next palette here, this is the 35U palette. You can tell that I've really loved this palette. I love all of the bright shades in here. It's such a good palette from Morphe, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one. Next one here from Morphe, this is the 35O palette, which I feel like is so many people's favorite palette. It just has so many amazing warm tones in it. I'm gonna be holding on to this one. This next palette here is from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is the Prism palette. Mine has cat hair in it, but this is such a gorgeous palette. I love the color scheme of this. I know it's very different and unique, and I really like that about it. We have the 35B palette from Morphe. This is one of my absolute favorite palettes. I love how colorful it is and different, and I am going to be keeping this one. So next from Urban Decay, we have the Naked 2 palette. This is one of my favorites. I use the crap out of this palette, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna keep this one. We're not doing so hot here. Next is my Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. I do actually really like this palette. I'm so the only palette that I actually own from Too Faced. I do want to try more from them, but I'm definitely going to be keeping this one. Next from Morphe, we had the 39A palette. This is the Dare to Create palette, and I do really, really like the colors in this palette. I just feel like it's so huge. It's really hard to kind of store, but I do like the colors, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna keep this one. Next palette I have here is from Shanny Cosmetics, and it is a very, very colorful palette. It has so many different fun, different colors in it. I do think this is a cool palette, and I definitely think that the colors are super fun, but I think it's definitely similar to my 35B palette from Morphe. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pass over this one and put it in my gifting pile. Here from Kylie, I have the Royal Peach palette. I do think I am gonna hold on to this one. I just think it's such a pretty palette, and I wanna use it more often. So I think I'm gonna put this one on my desk so I can use it. Next from Persona, this is the Identity palette. This is such a good palette, you guys. I have loved, loved, loved this palette, and I've used it a ton, so I'm definitely gonna be keeping this one. Next from Violet Voss is the Nicole Concealio palette. This is another one that I really like and have used a bunch, so I'm gonna be keeping this one as well. I just have a bunch of different individual eyeshadows from Makeup Geek. I'm gonna be holding on to this one. And lastly, you guys know I'll be keeping this one. This is the Jaclyn Hill palette, and this is one of my favorite palettes, so I'm gonna be keeping this one, of course. Okay, so looking over our keep pile, I have 52 palettes that I was keeping. This is way too many palettes to keep. I need to narrow this down. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna purge a couple more of them to add to some other piles. So let's go ahead and pick a few more. So I was thinking I am gonna go ahead and gift this one. This is the Ashley Tisdale palette from BH Cosmetics. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put this one into the gifting pile. I think I'm gonna go ahead and gift this one from Pixie as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that one over there. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and gift this one from Wet n Wild. Okay, so a final overview. We are keeping 49 palettes. We're gifting 14 away. We're gonna go ahead and sell 6 of them. I'm saving this little guy for a giveaway, and then lastly, we just have 2 to trash. Didn't do too well. I feel like I saved way too many palettes. Say hi, Nelson. But it's a start. I think I'm gonna go through again maybe in a couple months, and if I haven't used a lot of these, then I'll go ahead and purge them. But I don't know, I'm holding on to them, but I think I did pretty good. This was definitely a hard time getting rid of this many because I feel like I am a hoarder, but I'm happy with what we did. So yeah. Whew. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this declutter video. Let me know your comments down below in the comment section. What palettes you guys love? What palettes are you guys thinking of decluttering in your collection? Also, please subscribe to my channel if you like this sort of video. Give it a thumbs up so I know if you like the decluttering, so I will know to do more with my collection. And yeah, I hope you guys have a really great day, and thank you so much. Bye.